So we've punctured our bike, probably the most common off-road trailside adventure that we're going to have when it comes to our bike. Really not very difficult to fix, pretty simple job, but I'll give you some top tips on how to do it. As you can see from this bike, we've got a flat tyre on the back, so before I take my wheel off, I'm just going to change gear down into the smallest sprocket at the back. The reason I do that is it's much easier to put it back on. Undo my quick release, lift the bike up, out comes the wheel. And that leaves me with my wheel with my flat tyre. Now, be careful where you put these, because you do want them. So I tend to put them in my pocket. If I'm going to get to the tube and get the tube out that's in here, I need to do what's called breaking the bead, and that's where the side of the tyre sticks against the metal of the rim. So I'm going to work my way the whole way round just to make sure the two are not touching. So once I've gone round the tyre and I've got the tyre sitting free from the rim, I'm now going to try and squeeze as much of this tyre around the rim as possible. And what that gives me is slack in the bottom here, and that allows me to just lift the tyre off the rim. Some wheels and tyres don't quite come off as easily as that, so it might be that I need to use tyre levers. But once you get a grip of this wee knack, then you can do it with most. Now what I want to do is actually leave the tube in at the valve, and I need to decide what punctured my tyre. Is it something that's gone through the tyre like a thorn or a screw or whatever, or is it because I rode into something really hard and I've pinched the tyre and the tube against the rim? If I know I've hit an edge and I've punctured, then that's a wee bit easier. But if I'm not sure, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the valve in, bring my tube out the way, and using something like my glove, I'm going to run round the tyre to see if I hit something that's sticking through the outside of the tyre. I don't want to do that with my fingers, you'll end up slicing your finger. And then that means, because my valve's in there, I can put my tube back and I know that my puncture is going to be somewhere in this section here. Now, if this is my last tube, I'll need to use my puncture repair kit to fix this. I'm not going to do that, I'm going to put a new tube in, but I need to get the object out of my tyre. So now I can have a look in here, and perhaps with my pliers I can pull out the thorn, and that way I'm not having to search the whole tyre or the whole tube for the problem. If I've pinched the tube against the tyre, against the wheel, then I can just take the whole lot out, because there's going to be no damage. Take that tube out, I'm going to fold that up and put it in my bag, because it's much quicker, much simpler to just put a new tube in. Tidy that up later. So before I put the new tube in, I'm going to put a bit of air in it, and I'm going to make it nice and round. This makes putting the tyre back on much easier. So that's enough. Take my pump off. And now, starting at the valve, I'm going to make sure my tyre sits around the tube and inside the rim on the wheel. And I just work my way around to the end. Now I know this is going to work for me, so I can just push it on my thumbs. Different tyre combination, again, I might just have to use my tyre levers. So it's always worth having two in your toolkit. Now that that's that place, then I can start to pump my tyre up. So because of this type of valve, I'm just going to put on this little washer. Nice thing with that is it's going to hold the valve in place while I pump pump up. Now I'm going to put this way around just so it's easy to see on the video, but I'd be doing it the other way around. It truly is worth spending money on a good pump. Super lightweight, super small pumps are an absolute nightmare to use in the trail, out in the wilds. If you puncture and it's raining or really midgy, you're going to wish you'd spent money on a good pump. So don't try and save too much weight. Don't fully inflate the tyre, but do it so that you've got a shape the whole way round. Because what I need to check now is that the tyre is sitting inside the wheel and that the tube is sitting inside the tyre. I don't want to pinch the tube between the tyre and the wheel, or else I'll puncture it again. I have done that. I've done it a few times, and every time you do it, you think, I should have checked. So it is worth, and you can do a bit of a visual check, and then you can just run your fingers round and make sure that it feels like the tube is sitting inside the tyre. If you're happy that's the case, then you can just finish pumping up the tyre so that it's at the right pressure. Now, if you've got a poor pump, you're tired or the weather's bad, the chances are you won't pump this up high enough. So I'd always check it with the other tyre, so feel what that tyre feels like and pump this one up to it. If you're lazy, if you don't spend the time doing it, then you're just going to puncture this wheel again and you have to do the whole process over again. So it's worthwhile spending a little bit of time just to get it right first time. And then finally, I just need to put it back in the bike. And this is where changing gear to start with will help me. So just holding the bike upright, I definitely find this easier doing it with the bike the right way up. Then putting the spiky bits between the two bits of the chain, I can just fold my mech out the way, just make sure it's all lined up with the discs, and the wheel will just fall nicely in. And there it is, sitting in the dropouts with the disc rotor on this side sitting nicely in the brake. When it comes to doing your quick release up, this is why I really like doing it with the bike the right way up, is put a bit of weight on the saddle to push the wheel down into the bike and then do my quick release up. And then just give it a check to make sure it spins right. And that's it fixed, back on the bike, job done.